What if I told you that the moment your heart stops, your brain doesn't immediately get the memo? Most people imagine death as a light switch. 1 second you're here, the next second, darkness. End of story. But biology has a strange habit of ignoring our assumptions. Because when your heart stops beating, your brain doesn't instantly shut down. In fact, for a brief period of time, it may become more active. More electrical activity, more chemical chaos, more internal experiences. Almost as if your brain has one final mission before everything goes silent. And that's where things get weird, because scientists studying dying brains have discovered something unexpected. In some cases, the brain appears to produce a sudden burst of activity associated with memory, dreaming, and conscious awareness. Which raises a disturbing question. As your body is shutting down, what exactly is your brain doing? And more importantly, what is it hiding? Welcome to Noob Science. Let's talk about the strangest 7 minutes of your life. Or perhaps the first 7 minutes of something else. The moment your heart stops, a countdown begins. Not a movie countdown, a biological one. Your heart is basically a delivery service. Its entire job is transporting oxygen and nutrients to billions of cells. When that delivery service suddenly quits without notice, every organ starts panicking. But no organ panics harder than your brain. Your brain weighs only about 2% of your body, yet it consumes roughly 20% of your oxygen. It's incredibly intelligent. It's also incredibly needy. The second blood flow stops, oxygen levels begin dropping. Brain cells immediately recognize something is wrong. Emergency systems activate. Stored energy reserves are burned. Electrical networks begin firing in unusual patterns. Imagine a giant city losing power. Traffic lights malfunction, communication systems fail. Backup generators struggle to keep critical infrastructure running. That's essentially what's happening inside your skull. For the first few seconds, you may still retain some awareness. Then confusion begins. Vision starts narrowing. Sounds become distorted. Your sense of reality begins to break apart. Within about 20 seconds, loss of consciousness usually occurs, but unconscious doesn't necessarily mean inactive. This is where things get interesting. As oxygen continues falling, neurons begin firing erratically. Massive waves of electrical signals spread across brain regions. The brain is desperately attempting to stabilize itself. It's throwing every available resource into survival. Like a computer trying to save files during a catastrophic power outage. And then, something even stranger may happen. For decades, stories about life flashing before your eyes sounded like mythology. Interesting, emotional, not particularly scientific. Then researchers started finding evidence that forced them to take those stories seriously. One of the most discussed cases emerged from brain recordings taken during the death of a patient connected to EEG monitoring equipment. An EEG measures electrical activity inside the brain. Researchers weren't expecting anything extraordinary. Instead, they observed a sudden surge in brainwave activity around the time of death. Not random noise. Patterns associated with memory retrieval. Patterns associated with dreaming. Patterns associated with conscious processing. The kind of activity normally seen when people recall experiences or enter vivid dream states. Now, let's be careful. Scientists are not claiming they've proven an afterlife. They are not claiming they've solved consciousness. What they observed was a burst of organized neural activity. And that burst happened during one of the most extreme biological events imaginable, death. One theory suggests the brain may be rapidly accessing stored memories. Think of a massive digital archive. Every birthday, every embarrassing moment, every friendship, every heartbreak, every achievement, every stupid thing you did at 3 a.m. and still regret. All stored somewhere within billions of interconnected neurons. As systems begin failing, those networks may activate simultaneously. The result? A rapid flood of memories compressed into seconds. This could explain why so many people report seeing their entire lives replay before them. Not necessarily as a neat movie, more like a gigantic memory explosion, a final data dump. Your brain desperately processing information as its normal control systems collapse. Another possibility involves dream generation networks. The same regions involved in REM sleep may become highly active. If that's true, the dying brain could potentially create experiences that feel astonishingly real. Not because something supernatural is happening, but because the brain is the most advanced virtual reality machine ever created. Every sight you've ever seen, every sound you've ever heard, every emotion you've ever felt. The machine already has all the ingredients. Now let's look at what people actually report. Near-death experiences have been documented across cultures, religions, languages, and age groups. Not everyone reports the same thing, but some themes appear again and again. One famous case involved a cardiac arrest patient who was clinically dead for several minutes before being successfully resuscitated. After recovery, the patient described feeling detached from the body. There was a sensation of floating, a feeling of unusual peace, an awareness of events occurring around the hospital room. Other patients described moving through darkness, encountering familiar people, experiencing overwhelming feelings of comfort, or reliving important moments from their lives. Again, none of this proves supernatural explanations. Scientists continue debating what these experiences mean. Some researchers argue they're generated by oxygen deprivation. Others point toward neurotransmitter surges. Some focus on dream mechanisms. Others suggest multiple systems are interacting simultaneously. But regardless of the explanation, one fact remains. These experiences often feel more real than ordinary reality itself, which is honestly terrifying. Because if your own brain can manufacture experiences that convincing, how much of reality do you actually trust? And now we arrive at the most mind-bending possibility: time. Specifically, your perception of it. Time inside the brain is surprisingly flexible. In dreams, entire adventures can seem to unfold. Conversations, journeys, stories. Yet only minutes pass in the real world. During emergencies, many people report time slowing down. Athletes, soldiers, accident survivors. They often describe events unfolding in slow motion. The brain isn't literally changing time. It's changing how time is experienced. And that leads to a disturbing thought experiment. Let's say the final burst of brain activity lasts a few minutes. Maybe less. Maybe more. What if that activity generates experiences similar to dreams? What if memory networks and imagination networks become intensely active together? Could a few real-world minutes feel dramatically longer from the inside? Could seconds feel like hours? Could minutes feel like years? Nobody knows. And that's the uncomfortable part. Because the final moments of consciousness may not follow the rules we're familiar with, the clock on the wall might say 7 minutes. But the clock inside your mind could be telling a completely different story. Maybe the brain's final act is a desperate struggle for survival. Maybe it's a memory archive rapidly unloading decades of experiences. Maybe it's a dream so vivid that reality itself becomes difficult to distinguish. Or maybe we're still missing something important. Something hidden inside the most complex object in the known universe. The 3-pound biological machine sitting between your ears right now. A machine that somehow creates memories, creates emotions, creates your entire sense of self. And one day, we'll experience its own ending. Or at least, what it believes is the ending. If you enjoyed this brief existential crisis, hit subscribe. Tap the bell if you want to be reminded of how fragile your existence is every single week. Thanks for watching. Try not to think about your own brain cells too much. Stay curious.